Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
And beer.
and a Hurricane.
Yes.
Take it,
It's
turn it.
coming right for us.
It is. And, yeah, this is officially Hurricane Eve. It will be here tomorrow night. And we're recording on the 8th, on November 8th, or October 8th.
October 8th. Yeah, not
October
November
8th.
yet, man.
But yeah, and I said after the Helene came through, I said this is my fault. I said we've had the week one, we've had some powerful storms to skirt over us and everything, so we're due for a direct hit. And well, not even 2 weeks later, here we are.
Yeah, you jinxed it. I was actually for the listeners, I was just talking to Bill before this podcast and I was telling him that um I had off 3 days for Hurricane Helene. Then I went on a Disney cruise. I'm one of those adults without children that goes on a Disney cruise. And then came back and I'm like, well, I guess I'll just take another 5 days off of work because schools are closed. So I have effectively had a 13-day impromptu vacation. It's going to be really hard to go back to work. And I'm wondering how they're going to screw us over and take away all of our other holidays and stuff for the rest of the school year. So I'm not looking forward to how they're going to make all this up. So that's going to be fun.
uh, well, I mean, people have been messaging me, like other podcaster friends from, like, just before we got started, somebody messaged me from Canada, one of my friends from Canada, and I told her, I'm like, it just got upgraded to a 5. Are you going to be okay? I'm like, yes, it will go, it will power down before it makes landfall. It'll be about a 3 when it gets here. And
Yeah.
true Floridians don't bat. It's like we are noticing and watching a 3, but we're still not really worried about it. When it crosses over into a 4, then we're worried. When it starts to
Mm.
when it becomes a 5, that when it's going to hit as a 5, that's when they close the Waffle House, and then that's when we get the hell out of Dodge.
The Waffle House Index is a very powerful tool
It is.
for Floridian. Well, I mean, I guess it's one of those things where, considering we're inland enough, we're not in an evacuation zone.
Mm-mm.
Um, my mother up in Northwest Indiana is freaking out, and every time she contacts me, she says, "I'm not going to bother you again." And then she calls me again, and I have to say, "Mom, you're a liar. You said you weren't going to bother me again." But, I keep trying to tell her that here, at least where I am, we're not worried about storm surge. We're not
No,
worried that we're going to be flooded.
we're worried about losing our
It's
power.
yes, yes. I said that's the problem. I said, we worry about losing air conditioning. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, it's going to be cooler out. Thank God, a cold front's coming after, but it's just rough when you lose power and you're not
Right.
sure how long it's going to take for them to restore it. And after Helene, with all the linemen still trying to restore power to other places in the state, it can be messy. And I will say it's shifted south, but if it does go back north and Tampa Bay does get a direct hit, it is going to really drown the coast.
Oh
It's
yeah.
going to
Well,
be
it's going to
messy.
drown wherever it hits, whether it's and when people listen to this, it'll be 2 weeks from when we're actually recording it. So,
Well, I will say, if it hits southerly, then they say that it'll pull the water out of Tampa Bay as opposed to surging Tampa Bay.
right.
So if it goes south for us, it's good news. If it goes north for us, bad news. So we're
Yeah, but
watching that
I live
wobble.
on I live on the east side of Lakeland, like almost to Auburndale. So I'm about 65 miles inland.
Yeah.
From the barrier island, like Clearwater,
Yeah.
St. Pete. But
Yeah.
yeah, So, so I'm mainly worried about losing power, and if that happens, I will go to my truck where I have air conditioning, a microwave, and a refrigerator, and a bed to sleep in. And
Lucky you.
my daughter's with her mother. They went to Orlando, so because she has a friend there, so it's just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's we'll see how this plays out, but yeah, I mean it's no
Linemen
one
were
around here is panicking.
nah,
But
linemen were flooding. I saw probably 1,000 trucks heading south today because I had to go to Jacksonville today. Those trucks will all be headed to Tampa, or all be headed to the West Coast, on as soon as this thing gets done. So
I mean,
I
thank you if
raise a
you
drink to the linemen.
yes. Yes, if you are a lineman, even if you are not in Florida, and if
You
especially if you are in Florida and you are a lineman, we salute you. Thank you for your service.
absolutely one of the most important jobs in the United States.
That's right. Keep our
Anyway,
power on, our air
yeah,
next to HVAC in
yeah,
Florida.
yeah,
Thank you too, good sirs and ladies.
absolutely. All right, so let's get into this one. This also is part one of the British binge.
British binge.
British binge. So
British.
we had to, after we did the Wisconsin cheese binge, I'm just like, you know what, we haven't done any British specific episodes. So here we are. We got four of them coming for you, and this is part one.
Oh,
Um, four British true crime cases with a multi-part heavy hitter at the end. Although the second one is probably going to be a two-part. But we're like I said, we're doing this for the same reason that we initially did the Canada binge. One of our largest markets for listeners, and we haven't covered one. So grab a cup of tea or ale or some fish and chips, and let's binge England. We're starting it off with Mark Martin, legendary NASCAR racer who drove a Ford Thunderbird for most of his career. He was
uh,
most famous for his number six Thunderbird sponsored by Valvoline Oil on the Winston Cup circuit, but he also drove the number 60 Winston Thunderbird on the Busch Series. Or maybe I'm not talking about the NASCAR
yeah.
driver Mark Martin. This is a different Mark Martin.
Different guy. I'm like, huh, when did we switch the podcast to NASCAR? Well, although the Floridians would like that. I know they're making another left turn,
I've been to a NASCAR race. It's actually kind of fun to attend one. Not so
I
much to
have
watch it
been
on
too.
TV, but it is fun to attend one.
Oh,
Uh,
it definitely is. It's exciting, when you're watching them and they're going by you so fast that you almost don't realize when you're watching on a TV,
yeah,
it
you don't
seems
get a
like they're
feel.
not going that fast.
Yeah, you don't get a feel for how fast they're going, or how loud it is, for that matter. I mean,
No, it is really crazy. I mean, the car's just it's going by you and
you can
making
you
another
can
left
you
turn
can
becomes
feel it.
exciting.
You can feel it
Yeah,
when they go by you too. It's just like, whoa.
yeah,
I've only been
like
to
the
one.
whoosh.
Yeah, I've only been to one NASCAR race, and it was in North Carolina, in Charlotte. But it was one of those Saturday night races. It was the Winston Cup, but it was like a Saturday night race they had there in Charlotte, so it wasn't like blazing hot outside. Actually, it
Hmm.
was actually I think it was in November or something, so it was actually kind of chilly by the time the sun went down. But still, I mean, yeah, give me free tickets for the Daytona 500. I will hand them right back to you and say no, thank you.
Yeah, I think I went
No,
to
wait,
one
no, no,
in
no, no,
I
no,
think it was in
not the
Indiana.
Daytona, not the Daytona
Not that they
500.
don't.
I'm thinking about the the Pepsi 400, which happens in July. To
Oh,
hell
okay.
with
Oh,
that.
oh no,
Uh-uh.
no, 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 no. Not out in the sun. No, I mean
Yeah.
that's not in Florida.
Hashtag, but I digress. Right out of the gate. But the Mark Martin we're covering was a scumbag serial killer in Nottingham, England, who his entire life would brag that he was going to be the first ever Nottingham serial killer. Ooh.
And when
This guy.
someone brags about that, you kind of I'm starting to think that when someone brags about this shit, you should believe them.
Yeah, true. That's definitely
because
true.
it's lots of boasting and lots of craziness going on. I mean that to me, I'm like, so if someone ever says to you, I want to be a serial killer, you know what? Start thinking about whether or not they're serious.
Well, I mean, when I was younger, before my dairy allergy and intolerance really kicked in, I really was a serial killer. I tore up some Captain Crunch.
Oh my God, coming on Halloween. Oh, I think it was a year or two ago, a kid came to my door and he had on a white sheet and he had those little like single serve boxes of cereal and they all had knives in them with little blood drips coming down and they were all pinned to the sheet.
Oh, so somebody
And
did
I'm like,
what?
the kid
He, he
came
put a
trick or treating.
he put a knife in that.
Yes, he put it over. Yes. And I looked at him and I'm like, ah, serial killer. And he's like, yes. I'm like, clever, clever. You get extra
Nice,
candy, kid. Good
nice.
job.
But between 2004 and 2005, he would murder three women, two of them homeless. For one of the murders, he had accomplices. John Ashley, who was the leader of the liquor smuggling and bank robbing gang of nitwits known as the Ashley Gang in Florida back in the early 1900s. No, not that John Ashley. Yeah, we covered him way back in episode 12.
Why do all these people have the same name? It's just
I don't know.
it's like
No, but once I did the
coincidence,
Mark
but
Martin, then I saw the other guy's name was John Ashley, and we actually covered a John Ashley. I was like, okay,
the listeners are gonna be like, what the
but this was just another street goon who Mark Martin bossed around. The other was Dean Carr, the young nephew of the late Kiss drummer Eric Carr. And, nah, he's got no relation to Eric Carr. he was just another lackey on Mark Martin's pit crew.
All right, so you know what?
I
Any
had a
of
little.
our listeners have this name, or if any of our listeners have one of these names, you got to get in touch with us because that will be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, search engines can be really screwy. But once I did the Mark Martin thing, and it's just like I had to do the other two. It's like Dean Carr and John Ashley. I had to. I had to do it.
Oh,
Sources on the documentary 21st Century Serial Killer, Season 1, Episode 5, thedailymail.com, the BBC, the Nottinghamshire Live.com, and a little bit of wiki.
Sheriff of Nottingham.
Well, he did his job later on.
By dealing with Robin Hood, that sheriff, right?
Just a distant relative. Yeah, I think
Got it.
I think the sheriff of Nottingham was probably like an ancestor. Okay. So weird for this episode. He was born October 18th, 1979 in Ilkeston, and he was bullied relentlessly at school because of a strange birthmark on the left side of his face. He was named Reds because of the color of the large birthmark.
Oh,
Um,
he probably had like one of those port wine like
it actually looked
birthmarks or
like it
something.
actually kind of looked like a teardrop, but coming from the middle of his eye
Hmm.
instead of the side.
Or like one of those, like, what is it, the cherry angiomas or whatever. Like yeah.
But he was also chubby. He had a round face, which obviously that didn't help matters. His 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 father was also no stranger to law enforcement, and he was imprisoned as Mark grew up. Although Mark looked up to him big time. Mark would brag about his father's prison sentences, and he wore it as a badge of honor. His father was said to be in prison with the Krays, who were infamous like British mobsters. And Mark also idolized them, and we may do an episode on them at some point, although
Mm.
it won't be during the British Binge. I can already.
Already, great parenting is a trend. with a lot of our killers.
but this name drop association with the the craze gave him a little bit of cred in school, because if he knew the craze, well, he must be kind of connected or something.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually know the craze. He just told everybody they did.
Well, school age kids are stupid, so
Every now and then there's an episode where I just go freaking full on relentless on him, and this is one of them, because this guy is such a little fucking bitch. I it's just such a wannabe, and
hmm
yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm relentless on him in this episode, and he deserves it because he's a piece of shit.
Well, yeah. I mean, they all deserve it. They're all pieces of shit, but
Some more than others.
yes.
Mark didn't take to this rough upbringing very well. He also didn't do very well in school, and he had a below average IQ. Um, he started doing drugs. He started off smoking weed, which led to pills and meth. And they say that weed is a gateway drug.
Yeah. Don't smoke
Apparently
weed.
it was with Mark, because of but not for the reason that like the religious right sites, like that's going to make you want it. He he just wanted more. That's all he wanted.
Oh,
He wasn't
he
like
was
enticed to do more by weed.
well, he was big and dumb, and
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're going with this. Big, dumb, ugly, you know,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
There was a rumor going around that Mark had tried to smother a baby to death because it wouldn't stop crying.
Oh, well,
Well,
I, I'm
I mean,
not I'm not saying okay, you know what? I'm sure that every parent every once in a while has gone not that they've really truly contemplated it, but um I think it was what is it? Tim Minchin. Have you heard of Tim Minchin?
maybe.
He he did a lot of comedy songs, and he did one where he sang about how his child like would not stop crying. It's just and they're like, why is it that our love for them grows the closer to dead they look? I'm pretty sure it's Tim Minchin. It if I gotta look him up now because oh God, is it funny? If you ever
Sandra does not
just
have children, by the way.
I do not, but yeah, but I think that every parent can relate to all this. Yes, look up Tim Minchin, Minchin. I think he's actually British. I think he might be,
Hey,
and
there you go.
the song is called Lullaby, and it's hilarious because he speaks the truth about infants and them not sleeping and you wanting to sleep no matter what. So
but but luckily this baby wasn't hurt, and Mark wasn't arrested for it either, because the baby wasn't hurt. But his father, of course, was in and out of prison, but his mother was also out of the picture as well. Mark resented her for this, but he looked up to his father. And before too long, Mark had found an outlet for this resentment and rage. Take a guess.
hmm. Oh, let's see. The drugs, killing,
One particular
gangs.
outlet. Something he could take his rage out on.
Ooh. Women.
You got it.
Uh, oh, why is it always the women? Poor women.
He decided that society, specifically women, were going to pay for his lot in life. While most kids while most kids were into rock stars, sports figures, and movie stars, Mark was into serial killers. and
Oh,
not the way that we are. He was into it, like glorifying them. Oh my god, I really liked it when you know Richard Ramirez just gutted that woman. Yeah, that's what he was like. We're like,
oh, I
okay,
know.
when Richard Ramirez gutted that woman, what a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Poor woman.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always got a chuckle about my obsession with, my husband calls it the murder porn. Um, in it, and I just saw a meme the other day that said, my husband told me to calm down like he wants his own Dateline special. And I had to giggle about that. I'm like, yes, very true.
He was around 15, 16 years old when he began boasting that he would be the first Nottingham serial killer. He already idolized the craze, but then he started intensely reading and idolizing people like Donald Nielsen, aka the Black Panther, who may turn up in the British Binge, don't know yet. He was a kidnapper and robber who killed 4 men, and he died in prison in 2011. He also admired Ian Brady and Myra Henley, who killed 3 kids in the Moors murders. Um, Initially, he was just a fanboy for the killers, but that obviously changed, or we wouldn't be talking about him.
Yeah, it went beyond just an idolization and
Yeah. And he also dropped out
got
of
a
school.
violent shove in real life. Well, he wasn't very good at it. Remember, he
Yeah.
was below average. So,
But he wanted to be famous, and the internet and social media like MySpace at the time was making it easy to do that with just a little bit of effort. And of course, now all you have to do,
MySpace,
MySpace is cool.
my
But
top 8 places. Yeah.
but of course, now all you have to do is have one random single catchphrase, and you'll become a famous millionaire. Haktua, spit on that thing.
Mm, it was a hawk tour. Okay. The hawk tour girl. Hello.
I like her. I think she's cool. I mean, I don't listen to her podcast or anything like that, but it's just she's got a good head on her shoulders, and she is like milking this for every fucking penny that it's worth. And I say bravo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you get your 15 minutes of fame and you can extend that 15 minutes into 15 hours or
Yeah,
15
that
days,
seems like that's
do
what
it.
she's doing. Seems like that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty smart.
And apparently good at something else. So we applaud her.
Well, never mind. But Mark was determined to be a famous serial killer. But so he began identifying potential victims, homeless women with drug addictions that nobody would miss. And when Mark was 16 years old, his father died, and that's what made him snap. He said that
Oh.
he became evil when that happened, although I'd argue that he was already evil at that point. But these serial killers all like to have some sort of an origin story, something that pushed them over the edge, something they could blame their hideous actions on. And
Yeah.
Mark's father dying was what he chose as his.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh, yeah. Because he loved his daddy. And most of these men are, mama's boys.
that's
But
true. That's true. He's
but
daddy's
he
boy.
was a
I mean, mhm,
daddy's boy.
good point. Very good point. Um, there aren't very many podcast episodes about this guy. I think I found like 3, which is awesome for our purposes because we're one of the first.
Well,
But
and it's also kind of funny that, you know, there's not much on him. He wanted to be famous and he kind of failed at this. So,
wait, we're giving him what he wants. Thanks a lot for listening,
ah,
everybody. We'll see you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
like, comment, subscribe, smash that button down.
Around the time he was 20 and homeless, he actually tricked a woman into marrying him. Um,
Like you do.
he moved her into his house, and they had a daughter together. Although some sources say it was a son. Um, This, believe it or not, tamed him for a short, very short while until she threw his sorry ass out in 2002 when he beat the shit out of her.
Good for her.
Hmm. He was homeless once again, and in 2004 she divorced Mark. He was likely abusive to his daughter too, and and his wife also refused to let him see her. And now it's kind of weird because I'm putting together the next episode. I'm writing the next episode right now,
Mm.
and the beginnings of his story and the beginnings to Martin are very similar. Like I
Hmm.
there's been a couple times already that I was like, wait a minute, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I left something out. Oh wait, that's the next guy.
They also have similar names and
Nah, this guy doesn't have a similar name, but it's crazy how very similar they're. These two people, the part one and part two of the British Binge are, as far as their like origin story, their backstory. Because I mean,
Mm.
it's just, although the guy next week is a lot worse. So
Sure.
guy
Well, like
next
I
week,
said, good parenting seems to be a key,
yeah.
piece in that little cog, a cog in that wheel,
But he was enraged, and he called 999, which is the England's 911. Um, he told the operator that somebody was going to pay for him not being able to see his daughter, that he was going to kill somebody. And he said it was just a matter of time, but he knew he was going to do it, and they better come get him. But he hung up and didn't tell them where didn't tell them where he was, and he was calling from a payphone. It was,
helpful for
he
our
was
listeners who are in Gen Z. A payphone was a thing you actually put a coin into, and you hit the buttons, and you could call somebody on it.
Yeah. But he was just grandstanding. I mean, if he really wanted to be stopped, he could have easily checked himself into a mental hospital.
Mm. True, but I know a lot of people would rather not.
Well, yeah, but still, it's just like if you're seriously that close to going over the edge that you're going to call up the police and say, "Hey, come get me," and you're serious about it, you either sit there and you'll wait for him, or you'll just go check yourself into a mental institution. If you're that point, but he was just um he was probably just,
Mentally unstable.
yeah, probably fucking with the police like so many other serial killers did, like BTK, who was basically mimicking David Berkowitz and
Mm.
Zodiac, but
Yeah.
and now he's mimicking BTK, Berkowitz, and Zodiac. So nothing
Mm.
original about those two chuckleheads. But
Yeah.
um, he didn't kill anybody though, not yet. He found a homeless community in Nottingham and he fell in love with them. But he wasn't liked there either because he was a bully to them as well, and he ruled them like a dictator, and there really wasn't anything that they could do about it.
Oh yeah.
It's just like if somebody's just determined to just kick somebody else's ass just for no reason and don't care if they get hurt in the process, what are you going to do?
Not much. I mean, and especially if you're homeless, you're probably
Right.
ignored quite a bit. No one cares, unfortunately, about,
Yeah.
homeless people and their problems. So,
Mark quickly became a drug dealer, and he would also beg for money. And to the people that he would beg from, he came off as harmless. But to the actual homeless people who knew the real Mark Martin, I mean, they would avoid the guy at all costs. Like if he was on this side, if he was on the north side, everybody else was on the south side. Of the community where they were. Some people did fall in with him. The aforementioned John Ashley and Dean Carr. Um, Mark was their leader, and they called their little clique the Reds.
all
Hey, at least
right.
he owned up. At least he took his blemish and owned it.
Yeah.
That's probably about the only nice thing I can say about him.
When life gives you lemons.
Make Reds. I wonder if he smoked Marlboro Reds. He probably did, just because Reds.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he smoked cigarettes.
He
But he,
smoked a lot of things.
yeah,
Crack,
he made
weed.
meth. He maintained their allegiance by bragging about how mean he was and by beating up and robbing other homeless people. And likely at night, um, you know, while everybody's winding down, he'd tell everybody how he's going to be Nottingham's first serial killer. I'm going to be Nottingham's first serial killer, mate.
Mate, I'm sure that helped everybody sleep at night. I'm sure everyone was lulled to sleep.
Yeah, but I don't know. I can just picture, a little freaking potato spud boy like him talking about, I'm going to be the first serial killer.
You sound like, please, sir, I'd like some more.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to I'm trying to childify this fucker.
Please, sir, I'd like some less.
I'm going to be the first Nottingham serial killer, and you better respect me right now, because if you don't, I'm going to I'm going to be mean to you.
Righto. My,
Don't.
my British accent is not very good.
Uh, yours is as good as mine.
Which is to say, not good. So,
I can't do it on command, though. That's the thing. I can't do it on command. If it's just freaking natural, I can nail it, but I can't do it on command. And like doing a British episode where I know that I'm gonna do it, that's on command.
to all of our British listeners, if there are any, we're sorry.
Oh, that's our number 3 market.
You know they're over there like, the bloody fuck is this? He's a
We love our British listeners.
American wankers. Like,
A bloody wanker.
oh, again, we apologize. I know I sound as white American Midwestern as I possibly can.
No, they
So,
can laugh. They can laugh at us. I mean, this is a true crime comedy show. So, I mean,
they're supposed to be laughing at the content, not the creators.
what are you even talking about? I try to be an idiot sometimes.
Try.
Oh, I oughta. You're a bloody wanker is what you are.
It's just gonna say you didn't have to try very hard. Comes naturally.
Don't like it. Don't like it very much. It's a bloody pain in it. In it.
In it.
In it.
Is it hard to be an idiot on command though?
Apparently. No.
Oh.
No, this is all in fun, and the British listeners that we have, seeing as they are the number 3 market as far as like country is concerned, and everything, the UK, they know we're just laughing. They know we're just having fun. But actually, the UK, England and Scotland is like a bucket list destination for me, because a lot of my heritage comes from that area.
I got Irish. I'm the Irish gal, so
Well, okay, since this is a short episode, I'll just digress just a little bit. I mean, but my last name is actually a British last name, but but my heritage is Scottish. My lineage is Scottish, and I'm like very close to being purebred Scottish. There's like a sliver, because like my great grandmother on my dad's side of the family was like half Seminole Indian, but
oh nice.
but my mom was 100% Scottish, and my dad was probably like what 75% Scottish or something like that. So that makes me a very close to being a purebred. So, but my family, my Scottish family, like on my dad's side, came over to the north the Americas and um I guess the 1600s, I believe, like the late 1600s. They were
That's when
wanted
most
by
people came.
they were wanted by the British Crown. So when they got to the United States, they changed their name from McGeechee just to my last name.
Oh, yeah.
So
See,
my
I took one of
last
those 23andMe things, the 23andMe, and it came back. It's basically 100% assorted crackers, as they say. Um,
well,
I
I
oh
had like a
wait,
whole book. I had like a whole book and everything that got passed down. That got passed down and everything. Like containing like the lineage and all that stuff, like the history of it and everything. That's how I know all the. Unfortunately, it was ruined during a flood from a hurricane. It's gone.
oh
It's gone.
yeah. There's some fun stuff in my family. I know parts of my family have some French Canadian, and that was because apparently some great uncle of mine had two families, two wives, and two sets of kids because he worked on a railway, and
Hmm.
neither of them knew about each other. So like we found this out again through like DNA lineage, and it's like, why are these French Canadians related to us? Why are all these people in our family tree? And yeah, come to find out, oh, great uncle Chester or whatever had two families. Oh, great.
But by the way, I don't consider myself Scottish. I don't consider myself British. I was born in the United States. I'm an American. I can't stand how you got these people up in Boston. They're like, I'm Irish. No, but you've never even been to Ireland. You were born in freaking Boston.
Oh yeah, I'm American, but I pine for the Isles. I'll say
Well,
that.
the way I'm an American. I'm an American, but I do have Scottish lineage. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
what I look at it. I'm not going to call. I'll never forget. Like on that big thing that they did in an arena, like right after 9/11 happened. There was this firefighter, and I'm not knocking a firefighter or anything like that,
mhm.
but he got up and he said, "Osama bin Laden, you kiss my Irish ass," and that always stuck with me. I was just like, if there was any point in your entire life that you needed to say you were an American, that was it.
Right then, dude. You missed
That's
it. You're
it was
American.
like kiss my Irish ass. And he's probably never even been to Ireland.
Ah,
That's
but
stuck with
we
that stuck
digress,
with me.
right?
That stuck with me because I remember watching that, and I was watching it with a friend of mine when that came on, and I was just like, did he really just say kiss my Irish ass?
He did apparently.
Anyway, hashtag but I digress. But um anyway, Mark maintained Dean and John's allegiance by bragging about how mean he was and by beating up and robbing other homeless people. And I already said that. Um, he would tell them how he would tell them how he was going to be Nottingham's first serial killer. He would also educate them about serial killers, glorifying them instead of telling the story and ridiculing them like we do.
Yeah.
He would intimidate the community, and but some people couldn't avoid him. The addicts, because if you were a man, you were pretty much screwed unless you had money or something else that Mark wanted. But for women, Mark had other ways that they could pay.
Ugh. Ew.
I feel bad for Mark Martin, the NASCAR racer.
Of course, you had to start the episode with him, so now everybody who, you know, kind of dozes off in the middle of the episode and wakes up is gonna start thinking that, really?
Yeah, but still, with our number one market obviously is the United States. So I would say probably at least 70, 60 or 70% of our audience, when they hear Mark Martin, they're going to associate it with the NASCAR driver. So,
Exactly.
um, but yeah. But in December of 2004, he was ready to claim his throne as Nottingham's first serial killer. December 29th, 2004, specifically, he had a tent set up inside an abandoned building in Nottingham. This was more or less his lair. It was
His lair, his
his
man
lair.
tent. He didn't
Yeah.
have a cave, you know. He had a tent.
Well, this is Nottingham. That whole the that whole area has been like developed since like since like the 1500s or the 1400s or probably even further back than that. So I mean, there aren't very many caves around there. But if there was, he'd be in it.
Yes. Or under a bridge. Oh, he was like a troll.
Yeah, that yeah that fits. It was quiet, and although there were other homeless people staying in this building, it was like an old factory building. It's huge, but they stayed on the opposite side of the building, away from Mark. But this is a way for him to have privacy when he brought women in there to, quote, pay him for their drugs.
Ah.
18-year-old Katie Martin was not homeless, but she was known for, she had a soft spot for the homeless people, and she was known for helping them out. And she would even spend the night there with various groups because, like I said, she had a soft spot for them.
Mm.
But she was also the girlfriend of John Ashley, and although he was abusive to her the same way that Mark was with women, in fact, according to Mark, she had a black eye from John when Mark lured Katie into his tent.
Yikes. Oh, I just thought of a horrible. Oh, my father. I just channeled my father briefly because he used to tell jokes that were very off color and bad. And he always used to say, what do you tell a woman with one black eye? And you say, nothing. She's a quick learner. And what do you tell a woman with two? Nothing. You done told her twice already. And I would look at him and say, you're horrible. I love you, Dad. You're awful. You're going to hell. Rest your soul, Daddy.
I've heard that joke before. Yeah, I didn't like it. No, sir, I didn't like it. But
No, sir, I don't like it. Like the horse and Ren and Stimpy. No, no,
yep,
sir, I don't
no,
like
that's exactly what I was referencing. How'd you like
it.
that
It's the
fall?
horse.
No, sir, I didn't like it. Mark would later say that Katie wanted him, and who knows if whether she did or not. Probably not, but whatever happened, Katie made Mark mad, so he strangled and beat her to death. Mark would later say that she scratched his cheek and that's what set him off, and I find that ironic because he wanted to be known as a cold-blooded killer, but still, he thought he had to give a reason to justify his killing of Katie.
He couldn't just say, "Yeah, I wanted to kill the bitch. That's what I want to do. I'm a
Yeah,
serial killer." And
right.
so she scratched me. Mm.
Oh.
Oh.
But to avoid, oh, this is sick. To avoid being caught, Mark dragged Katie's body to an isolated spot in an open section in the center of the building and left her there buried under dirt and trash, but not before burning her fingertips to destroy any DNA that might be underneath her fingernails from when she scratched him.
I mean, that's sloppy too, because if you're gonna burn you may as well burn the whole thing and not leave the body at all.
Right.
They're still gonna be able to have dental records or something for the poor girl. I mean,
Right, because
still
she
be
wasn't
figuring it out.
she wasn't homeless. She had she had a home. She just like she was a do-gooder. She had you know she she really was, and she just happened to do it a little bit too well and got emotionally involved with John, and that ultimately led to her spending more time than she should have there, and unfortunately led to her death. But immediately, Mark began looking for his next victim, but not before bragging to John that he had killed his first victim. And although he probably didn't tell John who his first victim was, maybe he did. He beat her, so maybe John thought that it was cool that Mark had done that. Because John's just just as much of a piece of shit as Mark is too, but Mark's just the alpha male, the power man of the group. You know,
The alpha male. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if John was kind of like, oh, you kind of did what maybe I was too chicken shit to do myself. So
probably,
good on you.
probably. But Katie was listed as missing, and while her friends and family were looking for her, Mark was looking for somebody else to kill. He then went on an assault and robbery spree of people in the community. New Year's Eve 2004, just 2 days after Mark had killed Katie, Mark came across 26-year-old Zoe Pinnock, and he had lured her into the building with the promise of giving her some drugs to sell for him, as well as some heroin for her in exchange for sexual compensation. And she even had a hypodermic needle with her, so she was ready.
Oh, and it's still tragic. I mean, it's even though these people were you know, uh, drug addicts, they still are deserving of sympathy.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not,
no, I wasn't judging her. I was just telling the
yeah,
story.
no,
But
no, I know.
I feel for anybody that winds up on the street like that for whatever the case may be. I mean, I really do. Like when we were doing the Willie Picton episode and everything, all those indigenous women, those indigenous sex workers that were disappearing and everything, and just like they did a march for her that thousands of people attended. And I remember saying on that episode, I'm just like, if I had been living there, I would have been there at that march. I would have gone. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just nobody deserves that. Everybody's got a story, and some of these people who are homeless and on drugs, it's that doesn't immediately make them bad people, because it just means they, for whatever reason, they're just in a bad place. They wound up there and they don't know how to get out of it. That doesn't make them disposable people. Which
No,
is unfortunately in these stories comes up all the damn time. So many of these people targeted sex workers and drug addicts and stuff like that. Homeless and all that stuff, because they're the easy target. Nobody's going to miss them.
yeah,
But Mark screwed up right out of the gate, because people are going to miss Katie. you know
yeah.
but um so Mark had lured Zoe into the tent, and there Mark beat and strangled Zoe to death. And his reasoning for this murder, take a guess.
Hmm. He just hated women, and she scratched him. What? She tried to
when
steal his drug money.
when she got done paying him for the drugs,
Mm.
she left her hypodermic needle in his bed, in his mattress.
Ah, uh, an extra one to sell. What?
Well, doesn't even say if it actually stuck him or not. But like John Bunting in the Snowtown, the bodies and barrels murders. One of the people that he killed left a hypodermic needle in John Bunting's couch, and John Bunting sat on it, and it stuck him. You know,
Mm.
John Bunting was a piece of shit, but I'd be pretty damn pissed if I sat on a dirty hypodermic needle and it penetrated my skin.
Oh yeah.
I mean, damn. John Bunting was a piece of shit, but I can understand flying off the handle. I probably wouldn't have killed somebody over it, but you know,
Probably. Note that he said probably.
I wouldn't. Well, I probably wouldn't have. Oh God. So Mark then dragged Zoe to the same spot that he had buried Katie and did the same to Zoe. He then went out bragging to everybody that he'd gotten number 2. He was one away from being classified as a serial killer, and he was proud of it.
And there's the stupidity just setting in.
Yep.
Like,
But the homeless people were too afraid to report him. What if he was arrested and got out? But at this point, nobody had seen a body yet, but put a knife in that.
in the body? What?
Just that paragraph.
In the body of that paragraph. Okay, got it.
Yeah, in the body of the paragraph. After a couple of days, the smell got to be too bad, and Mark simply left the building and found another place to crash. His lackey, Dean Carr, he was squatting in an empty house, and Mark had moved in with him. John Ashley had also moved in there as well, so I can only imagine what kind of a scene that must have been. Like you got like 3 drugged up douchebags who were legends in their own mind. Keep in mind, this spree only goes from December 29th, 2004 to January 6, 2005. There was another person there too. 25-year-old Ellen Frith. She was a young mother of 2 who had turned to hard drugs and living on the street after having her baby taken away by social services. Her own father had been awarded custody of both the baby and her older kid. Her father constantly told her that she was welcome to stay with him, and so she could be around the kids and hopefully clean up. But she was obviously in a bad place mentally and couldn't deal with it, so she wound up on the streets. Like I mentioned before, we've covered lots of women in similar predicaments. Specifically the 4-part series that we did on Willie Pickton. I actually had that in my notes. During the Canada binge. It's tragic, but it happens. And she probably had a bout of postpartum depression as well.
Yeah, that'll mess with you mentally. Ask Andrea Yates, right?
Yeah. We haven't covered her yet. We haven't
Oh,
covered her. You want to take the lead on that one? Write
sure.
it. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm sure our listeners would love to hear you take the lead on it. So far,
And she's a female, so that'd be a good one.
There's Todd only took lead on two episodes, and they were both whatever. But and Paul never did. So yeah, I'm sure our listeners would welcome it.
All right.
But give me a week off too. But whatever the case, Ellen was there in the flat with Mark and his lackeys. Mark had decided to kill again, and I imagine that John and Dean were probably saying that they actually wanted to witness John kill somebody because we've never seen a bloody body there. Fucking Mark, you fucking wanker. Okay, that was bad. That was really bad. But
that was bad. I wasn't going to say anything, but at least you recognized it.
Like I said, I can't do it on command. Yeah. But the 4 people were hanging out doing drugs, but it turned bad. Mark wanted Ellen to give him more money, £10, to buy more drugs. And she didn't have it, so Mark flipped out and he beat her and he strangled her to death. He put her on the oh my God. He put her on the sofa, admiring what he had done. But I have it typed out here as he put her on the soda, admiring what he had done.
Well, yeah, a little bit of a distinction there.
He put her on the soda. He balanced her up right in that one can. And no, but
what do British people call sodas? Do they call them sodas?
I don't know. Let us know, British listeners. We're from Florida. We call it soda. There's people in the United States that call it just any type of soda. They call it a Coke. And then you got those people up in Boston that call it a pop.
Oh, Indiana people call it pop too. Up in
the Northeast.
Northwest Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Midwest.
Pop was me for most of my childhood. It was pop.
I've never called it I've always called it a soda. But So he beat her and strangled her to death, and he put her on the sofa, admiring what he had done, and he was boasting to Dean and John that he was now officially a serial killer. He was proud of how her body twitched and turned blue as he strangled her. You know,
I, yikes.
yeah. He definitely wanted to kill again, and he was bragging to anybody. Listen, I'm a serial killer now. Hey, I'm a serial killer. Serial killer.
Wasn't trying to lay low at all.
Hey, I'm a serial killer.
Mhm.
All I need is one more serial killer to go riding in a car so we can make that joke come true. You know what joke I'm talking about, right?
I think I've heard it. I'm pretty sure I've
You
heard it,
you
and
go
I'm trying
hitch
to remember the punchline.
you go hitchhiking, somebody picks you up, you get in the car, and the driver says, "Hey, how do you know I'm not a serial killer?" You look the driver in the eye and you say, "The odds that there being two serial killers in one car are astronomical."
But
That's something I would do if I was hitchhiking. If somebody picked me up and said that. Although I'm a true crime podcaster, you're not going to find me hitchhiking, especially not when I can just dial up an Uber on my phone.
yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah. Now we don't hitchhike. We pay to.
we pay to ride with the strangers.
So much better. Wait. Yes.
Oh man. Mark then covered Ellen with newspaper, jabbed a hypodermic needle into her leg, and then lit the paper on fire. Dean, John, and Mark fled the house, which burned down. And when fire investigators got there after the fire was out, they found the remains of Ellen's body. And she was listed as a homicide victim. Um, while the police were on the scene, a man who had been there the night before said that when he was there, Ellen was there too, along with Martin, Ashley, and Dean. He was the first of the people in the homeless community to come forward and point the finger at these three chuckleheads, so good on him. The other,
Somebody finally said something.
yeah, the other two bodies were found eventually, and the homeless people knew that it had to have been Mark Martin. You know, I mean, who else
It's
would it be?
probably the guy going around saying that he's a
Same thing. He's
serial
a serial
killer.
killer.
Hmm, who could it be? This guy, this guy. Oh, it could be that guy that keeps saying he's a
Excuse me,
killer.
sir. I just wanted you to know that I am a serial killer, so you will fear me. Okay, that was better.
Mm.
That was better. That was better. And I just want to say to our British listeners, keep doing videos of your like daughters, like the young daughters, like going on a rant, because the most adorable thing you'll ever hear is a young British girl just ranting about something. It is the most adorable thing I have ever heard. There was this one, she was bitching about how much, some candy or something like that, and she's just like, she's like, she's I can't believe it. He told me it was £16 and I only had £10, and except that it was like a higher pitch and everything, and I'm watching this, I'm just like, this is so freaking adorable.
And you know that she'd be pissed off to be called adorable when she's pissed off.
But you know what I'm saying, though.
Yes.
Just, I'll have to see if I can find that video again. Unfortunately, I think it was a reel, which is gonna make it real hard to find, because
Oh.
it's been a while since I've seen that. It's been like probably.
All right, everyone. It's been great being your co-host. I'm out now. That joke. Bye.
What, you don't like puns? That was an unintentional one too. But
The sad part is I do like puns, but
what, you don't like
not
my
when they're
puns?
to me. Listen, I only like puns when I'm making them. Okay, I like to make people groan, but not wait. Okay, never mind. I
You don't like to be the groaner? The
Do
Grony,
not. Well, oh, well, okay. What are we talking about again? We're talking.
a NASCAR driver. The other two bodies were found in fish. Oh God. Oh. The other two bodies were found eventually, and the homeless people knew that it had to have been marked. After all that, I already said that. Police discovered a pattern and began investigating this as a possible serial killer scenario. Police began talking to the homeless people, and they knew that Ellen Frith had been murdered, and that Katie Baxter and Zoe Pinnock had been missing for weeks. Um, the police needed to make an arrest before the killer killed again. But the homeless people were afraid at first to talk at all, but they were afraid of Mark Martin. They were so afraid of him that none of them would go out alone. They would like buddy system, not just the women, but men too.
Oh yeah,
But
it's crazy.
they slowly began telling police all about Mark Martin. It's likely one of them realized that since they were all afraid of him, they could be rid of him because he's going around boasting that he's a serial killer. It's like, okay, if this is true, he's gone.
Mhm.
He's gone out to the train station.
Get him out now while we can.
But the police weren't looking to bust these homeless people for anything. They just wanted to take a killer off the streets. And besides, even playing devil's advocate, you could look at it like the police wanted to get the killer before she even got more brazen and went on to the right side of the tracks to kill people, which
Yeah,
put
because
an
then he might kill someone that mattered, right?
yeah and put a
Uh,
knife in and put a knife in that, but that doesn't come the you can't pull that knife out until the next episode. Like I said, there's a lot of similarities between Mark Martin and the subject of the next episode. There's a lot of similarities, except the guy coming up next is scary. This guy's just a freaking wannabe little bitch boy. But although the next guy is kind of a bitch boy too, but he was a scary one.
it's a scary bitch boy. He tried.
Yeah. But Mark Martin was making the police's work very easy for them with all the boasting that he was doing. He thought he was untouchable and that the homeless people would be too afraid to rat him out. And he was right briefly, but that didn't certainly didn't last for very long. And because the people were tired of living in fear of this chucklehead.
Yeah. Surprise, asshole.
Surprise, motherfucker! Oh, that's from Dexter. I forgot you hadn't seen that series yet.
I know of Dexter. I know the premise of
Yeah,
Dexter.
you need to watch it. It's a great show. But people began telling the police that both Katie and Zoe had been seen near the old abandoned building around the time that they had gone missing. And that Mark Martin had been using it like a lair, like I said before, so police started searching it. They found the mound of trash and the open section of the building, and they, of course, found the bodies. The smell had led the police right to the bodies, although they had initially only discovered Katie's body, but while they were processing it, a police dog found Zoe about 2 meters away from Katie. Um,
Sometimes a smell, kind of like, your trunk is really starting to get ripe, man. Maybe you ought to clean it out. Like your warehouse is starting to get a little stinky, dude. Maybe.
yeah. But the bodies were badly decomposed, and they had to use dental records to identify them, but they were soon identified as Katie Baxter and Zoe Pinnock. Mark Martin, John Ashley, Dean Carr were arrested. The police began putting together evidence, and forensic showed that all three had been killed between December 29th and January 6th. December 29th of 2004 and January 6th, 2005. Mark couldn't help himself. When Ellen's body had been found, the one that was burned in the fire, Mark had called the police and said, "I'm guessing you want me for murder." "Oh, I'm guessing that you want me for murder." And then he hung up.
Um,
While in jail, he was boasting to other inmates. He's like, "If you kill 3, you might as well kill 21."
I'm sure
Uh,
they were impressed.
yeah, right. He told another that he had killed 10, but that was proven to be bullshit. He wanted to be feared in prison. He wanted to be what Pee Wee Gaskins referred to as a power man. But when he went to court, John and Dean were on trial with him. They didn't try him separately. On January 16th, 2005, they all pleaded not guilty. But the trial wasn't going to be easy. It was all circumstantial. But the police actually got homeless people to give statements. They also got some of the inmates that Mark had bragged to testify. He had told one inmate every single detail about the murders, and as well as how he tormented the homeless people.
I'm sure that one's like, and I got a couple years off my sentence. Thank you.
Yep. After a week of trial, Dean Carr was found guilty of killing Ellen Frith. John Ashley was convicted of killing Katie Baxter because it came out in court that he had actually been there when she was killed. Remember, I said he only had accomplices on one. It came out in court that he had been there when Katie was killed. That's why I didn't say 2 at the beginning of the episode.
Mm.
But Mark was convicted of all 3 murders. But this was a way to get all 3 of these scumbags off the street by charging the other 2 chuckleheads with single murders rather than just charging them as accomplices. Pretty fucking smart. John got 25 years, and Dean got 14, while Mark Martin was given a whole life tariff sentence, which basically means life with no parole.
Nice.
In 2008, it was reported that Mark was one of only 50 people who had ever gotten the whole life tariff.
Wow. Well, at least he'll never get out.
Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 pounds. In July 2023, Dean Carr was granted a parole hearing after serving 17 years. It was scheduled for November of 2023. I looked on multiple websites, and I couldn't find whether or not it had taken place or not, so I'm guessing that it didn't. Which, good.
I don't think you should let him out.
No. Mark showed no remorse. Mark showed no remorse. I said it and you derailed me. Thanks a lot. Damn it.
It's remorse. You could say it British way, remorse.
Mark showed no remorse for the murders, and to this day he still boasts to anyone who would listen. He's a power man in his own mind, a ruthless serial killer, even though the serial killers that he worshipped would probably call him a novice wanker. That wasn't bad.
Not bad. Not good, but not bad.
Best I've done so far in this episode. Best I've done so far in this episode. But Mark doesn't care. It's kind of like BTK wanting to be as infamous and as much of a heavy hitter as Ted Bundy and the others that he idolized. While BTK is, yes, a heavy hitter, he's a heavy hitter wannabe who ripped off lots of other serial killers' quirks. And even he would look at Mark Martin and laugh. And of course, Pee Wee Gaskins would too. I mean, a power man? You ain't no power man. I'd make you my bitch boy, son. The press labeled him as the Snighton Strangler. Snighton is a suburb of Nottingham. And I don't know. Do you think they did that because he wanted to be known as Nottingham's first serial killer, so they called him something else?
I mean, that'd be funny if they did, just to spite him. Like, we're not going to give you the satisfaction, asshole. Fuck you.
And Snighton doesn't have the same elegant ring to it that Nottingham does.
It doesn't. Snighton actually sounds kind of snivelly. Like
like nasally, exactly.
Sniting.
Sniting. I'm the Sniting Strangler.
Sorry to anybody that lives in Snighton.
Well, we've got places like that in the United States where the name is just like so freaking awful. I mean, you got like Intercourse, Pennsylvania.
Hell, Michigan. Always wanted to go there. Be like, welcome to hell. Michigan kind of is. I mean, let's be honest. Like, what is it that they say now? That's so Ohio.
Yeah. But I personally would have called him not Robin Hood. As of now, the whole area of Nottingham, that whole area of Nottingham has been repurposed and the condos have been put up as well as upscale shopping and other things. And it likely pushed the homeless communities into even worse areas with even less space to accommodate them. But
Yep.
yeah, that's what happens. But that's it. That's this episode. So
That was good. I mean, except for the accents, it was good.
I'll get it right for the next episode.
Listeners, who did a better British accent throughout this whole thing? Was it the couple words that I said, or
Mine
was
wasn't
it?
on par. Mine wasn't on par. Like I said, I can't do it on command. So anyway, I like this one, and I didn't know I'd never heard of this guy before. And it's just like when I do these binges and stuff, I like to look for somebody that's like lesser known and stuff like that. So it just
Mm.
it just makes it better to listen to it, because if you haven't heard, like how many times like even our Ed Gein, like part one of Ed Gein isn't getting the same amount of listen, nowhere near the same amount of listens that the previous episode did, because every podcast on the planet, every true crime podcast on the planet has covered Ed Gein.
Mm.
So it's like I try to look for the lesser knowns and everything. So it and it's just that's just what I like to do. So it worked with the Canada binge, and we'll see if it works with the British binge. But
Definitely.
now we got to bring your hubby in for the beer of the week.
Ah, yes, and then we will hunker down for. I know I keep saying if I hear that word again, hunker,
Hunker down.
hunker. Yeah. If you're not from Florida, if during a hurricane, hunker down is the phrase.
Yeah, I'm hunkered down, but
Or hunkered.
yeah, I'm hunkered.
It sounds almost like you're knackered, right? That's what the British say? We're knackered. We're tired.
Hunker you. Hunker off. Hey, we could. I think I just invented a new cuss word. Go hunker
Hunker.
yourself. All right.
Uh,
All right. Wrapping the episode up. It's time for the beer of the week here on CKCB, and we're bringing in Sandra's husband, Doug. What's going on, man?
Hey, doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm good. Just getting ready on, sitting here on Hurricane Eve, recording an episode, getting ready to get our asses handed to us tomorrow.
That's my stapler. That's my stapler. You just give him a stapler back and it'll go away.
yeah, so I've been saying. It's like, come on, Milton, can you at least downgrade to like a 2, 1? Just lay off, man.
It'll hit Tampa as a 3.
Yep.
But
Well, now it's trending south. They're saying more Sarasota, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'm not wishing any ill will on anybody, but that's all I'm going to say on that subject.
Yep.
Oh, well, yeah, it was like my mother, she's like, I'm praying that it doesn't hit you. And I said, well, if you pray that it doesn't hit us,
It's
you
gonna hit
are
somebody
inherently
else.
praying that it hits somebody else.
They're
I'm like,
not wrong.
how very Christian of you. Don't hit Tampa. Huh? Those fuckers in Sarasota. Ah.
But right after Helene, I said it's just like we've had several powerful hurricanes just skirt over us. I'm like, we're due for a direct hit. So
For 104 years?
Yeah,
but
something like that. It's been a hot minute since Tampa's had a direct hit.
yeah, so but
1921.
Yeah, I've been here for 41 years, so and it's been a hot minute.
yeah, so but it's my fault. So
So,
um so what do you got for us tonight
all
on
right, so
Hurricane Eve?
on Hurricane Eve. Okay, so in still in the spirit of Halloween, October, scary, spooky season. I have a beer called Forbidden Pumpkin. It's
Oh,
got a
that's cool. That's a
yeah, yeah,
I like the artwork.
yeah. So this is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. As the viewers heard
Then
in
it would
the
definitely be out of mine.
yeah. So this is an IPA. It's a Imperial Milkshake IPA from a brewery called Abomination Brewing, a company of
It
all
sounds like
things.
an abomination.
I normally stick to the dark, heavy, thick, stouty, ports and such like that. Russian Imperial stouts, those kind of things. But yeah, this is an IPA, so this is going to be interesting. It's from Abomination Brewing out of East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. It's an 88 out of 100 on beeradvocate.com. Again, that's where I get all my beer reviews from and check to see what they say. It's brewed with pumpkin, spice, vanilla, and milk sugar. So yeah, let's pop it open and see how it pours.
Are you drinking it cold or room
Cold,
temperature?
yes.
Okay.
Cold, yeah, cold. So got my glass here. Let's give it a pour. Oh yeah, definitely has that IPA color to it. Definitely golden. Nice head on it too. It's got a nice head. So yeah, looks definitely a little bit of haze to it as well as its first pour. It's clearing up a little bit right now, but a little bit of haze on the first pour. Definitely get the hops. Woo, this thing has a lot of hops. It is very hoppy, as with most IPAs. Not much on the pumpkin on the nose. I was expecting more pumpkin on this on the nose, but let's give it a try and see how it tastes. Yeah, the pumpkin is definitely there on the back end, not on the front. Um, Again, a lot of hops on the front, not too overly hoppy. They're very hoppy on the nose, but not on the tongue. And on the back end is where I get the pumpkin. A lot of pumpkin on the back end. No, but yeah. Overall, this is not bad. I'm usually not an IPA fan because of how much hops they cram into IPAs nowadays. But this one is not too bad. This is light on the hops. I'm thinking that milk sugar is cutting through that a little bit, along with the pumpkin spices and whatnot. It's helping out with the bitterness of the hops.
So when you say milk sugar, is there dairy in that?
I Let me see.
Probably
I
lactose.
Yeah, more than likely some form of vanilla, milk sugar. I would assume there is some form of lactose in this beer. Yes. Yeah, I would assume so. There's probably a very light form of lactose in this, but
Wow.
overall, I mean it's very very light. It's very refreshing. So again, mostly dark beers for me. Very thick, very heavy. This is light and refreshing. It's for a pumpkin beer that I'm used to being very fall weather and like again warming when you drink it, like with the dark beers and such. This is light and refreshing. So for a Floridian, if you're looking for a pumpkin beer, I definitely highly recommend this because it's still warm in Florida. It's 76 degrees out right now and it's night. It was over 90 earlier today, even with a hurricane on the way. So if you're looking for something like light, refreshing, that's also pumpkin, this is a solid beer for that.
And we won't hit fall till about December.
Second week of February.
Well, that's when we get our winter. It's in
Winter?
March. February, March is when we get our winter.
Winter's kind of like a weekend.
So, by the way, for the viewers out there, I do have the email set up. If you want to send me some beers to review, if I can find them, or just overall reviews of your own beer, something maybe I would like to try, it's ckcbeer@gmail.com. Again, that's CKC for the crimes, killers, cults, beer@gmail.com.
Sweet. Ironically enough, our Twitter handle is ckc_beer.
There we go. But no,
yeah.
cheers. This is really good. And I would definitely recommend this. This is, again, not too overly hoppy on the hops and the bitterness. Very light, refreshing with that pumpkin on the back end. I'm getting the vanilla and the spices and such. So yeah, definitely recommend.
Sweet. I know I wouldn't like it. Plus, I have a dairy allergy, not just lactose intolerant. I actually have a allergy to it. So, but I'd never heard of dairy in beer before. That was new to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Milk. They do milkshake stouts and such as well. Definitely milk or a dairy byproduct is very big in the stouts, porters, the darker beer family. That's why seeing this with the milk sugar, that really, I believe that is what cut down the bitterness of the hops in this beer to make it very palatable.
All right. That sounds interesting. So, well, once again, yeah, send him an email at ckcbeer@gmail.com if you got something, a request that you want him to review, or if you want to send it to him, get in touch with him, and you can work that out with him. One of these days I'll have the same thing that you have, and I'll drink it with you one of these days, but not today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, I know there are a handful of Bud Light-esque craft beers that I think you would absolutely enjoy and fall in love with. Like, it's Bud Light, but better, so.
And I won't try it until we're actually doing it. So the reaction will be genuine.
Reaction video. Absolutely. Reaction video.
So when we see your look of disgust, we will know that you have no taste. It's okay.
Well, I'm drinking out of a cup tonight, and it is Bud Light, but the grocery store was out of bottles, and I absolutely hate drinking out of cans, so I'm pouring it into a cup.
Yeah, that kind of is my level. It's draft first. If I can get it on draft, that's where I go. Then bottle, then can. Or if I can get it, fresh off draft into a can and drink it like that same day or within a couple days of getting it in a can or in a growler, because growler's glass. So from the draft directly to a growler, drink it within a couple days of getting it. Definitely the better way to go.
Sweet. So, all right, well, hit him up. Let's get some requests in there and everything.
Absolutely.
Like if you've got your favorite beer that you think that's local to your area or whatever. I don't care if you're in freaking Seattle. Let him know. He'll get some.
Yeah, I get this beer out of Pennsylvania. I get them from all over the place. So yeah, definitely send them in.
I mentioned Seattle because Seattle, we have more listeners in Seattle than anywhere else in the country. As far as like one city is concerned. I can't figure that out. I mean, we couldn't possibly be farther away unless it was somewhere in Hawaii or Alaska, but Seattle, that's our number one city. Makes it kind of hard to do live events.
Yeah.
We have more listeners in Seattle than we do in Central Florida. Well, maybe not Central Florida combined, like from Tampa to Brevard County, but still, more than in Tampa and more in Orlando. So, anyway. Well, thanks for coming on, Doug, and the rest of you. Thanks a hell of a lot for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We definitely enjoyed this one, talking about this little frickin' wannabe peon pipsqueak frickin' wannabe serial killer little bitch. And, like us, subscribe to us, 5-star rate us, review us, subscribe, do all the stuff. If you like us, tell a friend. If you hate us, tell a foe. And until next week, if we're still alive, later.
Bye.
Cheers.